so we're going to go over algebraically and graphically how to solve these. So, inequalities algebraically. So first, we want to make sure one side is less than or greater than 0. Then we want to factor the quadratic. Then we want to set the factors equal to 0. Then we create a number line and plot the solutions. We're going to sketch the parabola. If A is positive, then we draw upward. If A is negative, then we draw it downward. And if we're looking for greater than 0, means you want positive y values. Less than 0 means you want negative y values. And you're just going to locate when it happens on the number line. Okay, this thing is doing something really weird. Slideshow. No, there we go. So let's look at our first example. So it says solve the equation 2x squared minus 12x. So step 1 told us to do what? Make sure one side is what? I'm sorry? Less than or greater than 0. Is that done? Yes. So step 1 is satisfied. One side is less than or greater than 0. Step 2 says to factor. So we're going to factor 2x squared minus 12x. This can be factored by using greatest common factor. Agree? And what is the GCF between 2x squared and 12x? 2 what? 2x. So I can factor out 2x. When we factor something out, it moves to the outside. It doesn't disappear. And we're left with x minus 6. Agree? Okay. Step 3 is we set each factor equal to 0. So we have 2x equals 0. And we have x minus 6 equals 0. And therefore, x has to equal 0. And x has to equal 6. Still good? Anyone disagree? All right. Step 4 is we create our number line. So on our number line, we have 0 and we have 6. We're going to sketch our parabola. If our a value, so on 5, you look at your a value. Our a value is positive, so we have a happy parabola. And it's asking for, on step 6, we're looking for when is it less than 0. So this means we want values that are negative. So looking at our sketch, when am I below the x-axis in order to receive negative values? So numbers that are exactly. So my solution is x is less than 6, but greater than 0. And that's my answer. Roughly. Was it terrible? We're building on previous knowledge. Yep. All right, let's try another one. So step 1 is to make sure that one side is less than or greater than 0. Is that the case here? No, it's not. So what do we need to do? Get it to 0. So we're going to need to subtract 40 from both sides. So now we're with negative 4x squared plus 28x minus 40 is less than 0. Step 2 is to factor this. To factor this, we're going to first check for GCF. it can't be x, it's just 4. So our GCF is going to be negative 4. So I'm going to divide each term by negative 4. And that leaves me with negative 4, parentheses, x squared minus 7x plus 10. Agree or disagree? Next, to factor this, it's a simple trinomial. So I ask myself what multiplies to give me 10, but adds to give me negative 7. Perfect, negative 2 and negative 5. So we have negative 4 times x minus 2 times x minus 5. Questions about step 2? Step 3 is to set the factors equal to 0. So we have x minus 2 equals 0 and x minus 5 equals 0. What does x have to be for this to be true? 2 and 5. Step 4 is to create a number line. On my number line, I have 2 and I have 5. Step 5 is to use your value of your a. Well, our a originally is right here. And what is the value of our a? A equals negative 4. Because my a is negative, that means I have a concave down parabola. Do we see that? Because a is negative, my parabola is doing this. So step 6 is now answering the question, what is our inequality asking us for? Our inequality is asking us for when is it less than 0? So when do I have values that are negative / below the x-axis? The other way. So I have 2, it's split, right? I'm below here and I'm below here. So when I describe this, these values are what? There we go. X is less than 2 and x is greater than 5. How do you feel? All right, I would like for you to try example 3 on your own. Recording. All right, so, oh, my necklace just fell off. Step 1 is for, we're good to go, right? Check. Step 2 is to factor. So we have 3x squared minus 9x. And we're going to use the GCF to factor. So my GCF is 3x. And I'm left with 3x times x minus 3. Step 3 is to take my factors and set them equal to 0. So my x have to be 0 and 3. 4 on my line, that gives me 0 and 3. 5, my a equals positive 3, so I have a concaved up, right? How are we doing so far? And then 6 is asking for less than So you're looking for x is less than 0. And so, pew, 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 pew. Right? And so that's in between. So it is joint. So less than 3, but greater than 0. Ta-da! Inequalities. Feeling it? Easy? All right. The last option, on your part 1 of your 5-10 homework, you have 4 of them to do. Should go fairly easy, right? We're doable. Okay, you can check here when you're done. The answers are in the notes, okay? So you can check back in the notes on Canvas for your answers. Part 2 is, let's be honest, guys, you can graph this in the calculator, okay? If it's one that is hard for you to factor, this is your option. So if it's a hard one to factor, your option is to do what? Calculate it. And so, yes, the calculator, okay? On the calculator, you're going to locate the x-intercept, which is your solution, and either count on the axis or use the menu to analyze if you're using handheld, and then go from there. So here we have x squared minus 4x is less than 12. And so first step is that this has to be by itself. So we have x squared minus 4x minus 12 is less than 0. By hand, is this doable? This is so much faster to do by hand. Do we agree? Because I can easily factor this. So by hand, I can easily factor this. What multiplies to give me negative 12, but adds to give me negative 4. Perfect. Negative 6 and positive 2. So therefore, I know my x has to equal 6 and x has to equal negative 2. So on here, it's here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's here. And because my a value is concave down, a equals, no, it's up. My a value is 1. I was like, wait. So it's concaved up, and it'll be doing something like this. And coming up like, did I really need a calculator? No. And I'm looking for when it's less than 0. So below the x-axis. And that's going to give me perfect. Okay. Now, if it is hard for you to factor, by all means, please go to the calculator. Okay. So for here example, if it gave it to you in vertex form, remember this is vertex form. So if you're giving it in vertex form and you don't want to try to undo that or convert it or whatever, would this be an ideal one for you to graph? It's up to you. Do you have to graph it? You could totally solve for it. But if you felt more comfortable, I'm giving you the option. But just let's go over with it that this is doable by hand because you're looking for when it equals 0 so that you know where to cross. So if I'm looking for when this equals 0, I just got to get x by itself. So I add 2 to both sides. And that leaves me with 1/2 x minus 2 squared equals 2. I got to get rid of the fraction. So I multiply by its reciprocal. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. I'm left with x minus 2 squared equals 4. How do I get rid of a square? Take the square root. So we have x minus 2 equals plus or minus 2. Why is it plus or minus 2? It could be negative. And then I add 2 to both sides. So x equals 2 plus or minus 2. So that means on my intercepts here, x equals 2 plus 2, which is 4, or x equals 2 minus 2, which is 0. So I'm at 0, and I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4. And my a was positive. There's my sketchy sketch. This one's asking for greater than. So greater than 0. Where am I greater than 0? So my answer would be x is less than 0 or x is greater than 4. All right, good job, guys. Again, 4 problems. You can check back on here for your answers. Have a good day.